My mother had immigrated to America 8 years earlier, and it was supposed to be a temporary arrangement, and she would send for me after settling in the new world. Unfortunately, the arrangement became long-term, and I lived with my grandparents for 8 years in a little village in northern Italy. It was called Pranzalito, and we were very nestled into this community at the foot of the Alps. It was the only place that my grandparents had ever known, and me as well. But my mother kept writing letters, and she kept asking for me to come to America, and she tried to convince my grandparents to come along. But they didn't want to give up their lifestyle and the only way of living that they were accustomed to. But she kept writing and insisting that her daughter should be with her. And so finally, I actually got excited about the trip. And I found in my documents, in my elementary school notebook, a note that I had written as a little diary. And it explained that I was excited. It said, "With Nonna and Nonno, my grandparents, on board, the trip will not seem so long. In America, my mother's waiting for me, and she'll be very happy to see me. On the ship, I'll enjoy the ocean for many days, and after, I'll be able to hug my mother." Now, this was a stranger because when she left, I was only 15 months old. So even though my grandmother was very much afraid of the water and just an irrational fear in general of water, we enjoyed 8 days of great sailing. But I kept thinking back of my great-grandmother and the last day I saw her in the village of Pranzalito, and how I had gone to see her, and she gave me a piece of chocolate, as she always did, and put me on her knee to nurture me and give me words of wisdom to be a good girl and study hard, and to always be good to my grandparents and to my new family. And I was missing my friends, but I made new friends, and we enjoyed the luxury of the Andrea Doria, the great food and the artwork and the camaraderie of other immigrants. And then we made our suitcases for the last evening on board, and it was on July 25th, 11:10 p.m., when our lives completely changed. My grandmother and I were in the social hall with other immigrants making merry and dancing, singing, and we were near the bar. My grandfather was down in his cabin, and he had decided to go to sleep early and take care of his briefcase because it had our money and our documents. And then all of a sudden at 11:10 p.m. in a foggy Atlantic night, we were struck by another liner, the Stockholm. We didn't know it at the time. All we knew is that there had been a thunderous noise, and the ship was rocking and listing to the left, and then it listed to the right, and it just stayed at about 20 degrees to the right. The lights were flickering on and off, and it was complete pandemonium for a short while. The men were trying to raise the furniture from the lower side of the social hall to the upper side. And fortunately, my grandfather had made it through smoke and oil and water in the hallways and was clutching his briefcase when he made it to the social hall to join my grandmother and me. We felt very happy to be together, but we were frightened as the ship was listing and sinking by the moment. Then we heard the magic words of, "The rescue ships have arrived." This was several hours after the collision. And so we made it out to the deck by crawling, holding hands, and then I was lowered into a lifeboat by having a nautical rope tied around my waist and dangling over a lifeboat that was banging against the hull of the ship that just a few yards down was taking in tons of water per hour. We made it on the lifeboat that was jam-packed, and people were heaving, and we were all traumatized and very seasick. And then we made it to the Ile-de-France, the rescue ship that had come to our rescue, and we had to climb up a rope ladder to get into the Ile-de-France. And then I just fell asleep, and I remember that I missed the Statue of Liberty, which was very important for me to see, but I had been sleeping. We made it to New York safe on the luxury liner Ile-de-France, and then we flew to Detroit, and I finally got to meet my mother, where I gave her a big hug, and I remember saying to her what my grandmother told me to say, beautiful, which was the Italian way of saying beautiful with an Italian pronunciation. And then we went home together, the two blended families, and it was the beginning of a rough ride for many years to come. The Andrea Doria experience had a huge impact on my grandparents and the trauma that they suffered, and it affected the entire family as well.